what became known as Therapeutic Touch started at Pumpkin Hollow, the Theosophical Retreat near Hudson, New York. And it started there when Dora Kunz invited Estebani, a Hungarian man who she felt was one of the greatest healers she had ever come upon. She invited him to Pumpkin Hollow to do some healing. And he was convinced that it could not be taught, because when he tried to teach his men in the cavalry in Hungary, he couldn't do it. So he decided no one can be taught therapeutic touch. Well, Dora, being stubborn as she always was, she decided it definitely can be taught. So she started experimenting with Dolores Krieger up in Pumpkin Hollow. Dolores, having a PhD in nursing, named the procedure Therapeutic Touch, and she got it because of her degree into nursing schools and hospitals all around the world eventually. So after Dora worked with people at Pumpkin Hollow, she came back to New York, and she invited several people from the New York Theosophical Society to come and experiment with Therapeutic Touch. Mary and I were among the first chosen, and so about a dozen of us went, I think it was alternate Saturday mornings. Dora would bring in someone that no one in the room knew. Only Dora knew this person. Well, she brought one woman in who looked perfectly healthy as far as I could see, and she sat her down in the middle of the room, and she asked each one of us to go over and do what later was called an assessment. We put our hands about a couple inches away from the forehead and worked our hands all the way down the body. The intent was, Dora said, see if you feel anything different at any place as you're doing this. Well, I felt a draw of energy at her eyes, and I thought, well, there's nothing wrong with her eyes. She can see perfectly well. She doesn't even wear glasses. So I thought I was definitely wrong. After everyone had a chance, Dora went around. What did you feel? What did you feel, if anything? She came to me. I said I felt something in her eyes. I was sure I was wrong. Well, after everyone had a chance, Dora said, she has glaucoma. I picked it up in my hands. I did not, that convinced me that I was capable of being sensitive in my hands. I have an open mind. I'm not gullible, but I knew Dora could do it. I didn't know whether I could, but I found out I could. So then she would put a patient in the middle of the room. Now, this was maybe a different occasion. She'd blindfold them so that the patient would look around the room and wouldn't think, oh, that one will be good and that one won't. Well, you can't tell whether anybody's good or not by looking at them. You just can't. Dora might, but nobody else. So she would put that patient in the middle of the room with a blindfold, and then she would ask us to go over in pairs, one on the front, one on the back, and run our hands down and try to send healing energy. Well, I was on the back of this one woman, and I felt at a certain spot, my hands were like sun lamps. I just felt the heat pouring into this person's back. And afterward, Dora asked the patient, take the blindfold off, and what did you feel, if anything? And when she talked about the time that I was on the back, someone else on the front, she said, whoever was on my back, I felt energy going in right here. And she touched the exact spot where I felt the energy going in. That convinced me I could do it. Sometime later, Mary and I were out somewhere, and she said, I got the hiccups, do something. I said, I don't know if I can do anything. So I put one hand on the back, one hand on the front at the solar plexus. I willed the diaphragm still and sent a cobalt blue light between my hands. The hiccups stopped. Now, I'm not gullible. Maybe they were going to stop anyway. Now I have a 98% track record curing hiccups. Once a very funny case happened. As some of you know, I'm a priest in the Liberal Catholic Church, a theosophical front organization, I always say. In any case, a man I was doing a wedding for a Jewish woman and a Christian man. He was an excellent piper, a champion piper. He wanted a rehearsal. I said, well, you really don't need one, but if you want to, you can come on Friday night and we'll do a rehearsal. So he did. He had a bad case of hiccups. I said, come here. I brought him over, standing in front of the altar. I put one hand on the front, one on the back. the hiccups stopped. I think he thought God intervened. God didn't have anything to do with it. Anyway, it worked. So Mary and I have both been doing Therapeutic Touch ever since, and with great success. I very much like doing it with somebody who doesn't know what it is, you know. One time, one of our friends at a Scottish dance weekend was really feeling absolutely terrible, getting her ball gown on for the formal dance. And I said, would you like me to give you a therapeutic touch? She was like, I don't care what you do. You can shoot me. I don't care, you know. So I gave her a therapeutic touch. She said, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, does it bother you? No, she said. I said, well, then just be quiet. The next day, she felt so good, she thought I saved her life, which was perfectly ridiculous, but I did make her feel better. So therapeutic touch works, and the best test is hiccups. I told a friend who knew nothing about it that she could cure her own self with hiccups if it were just simple hiccups, not pathological. If you put her hands on her side. Next time I saw her, she said, it really works, Ed. So that's the sort of a brief summation of my early experience with therapeutic touch.
Thank you, Ed.